Listen, you smell something?
Human emotions are materializing in the form of a viscous psychoreactive plasm with explosive supernormal potential.
What a discovery, a psychoreactive substance.
Do you know what this equipment is used for?
Boggle or Super Mario Brothers?
We'll have fun!
Yeah!
They're still doing it. Really quite good work there.
My friend, don't be a jerk.
We've got no choice. Call the Ghostbusters.
Super Jackpot!
Welcome to Extraplasm Podcast. It's the only podcast on the internet that's trying to determine if there's also a Tobin's calendar to go with Tobin's spirit guide that it might use to convince everybody that its podcasts are never late and are always on time. I'm your host, Jim Maritato, aka Vape Maniac on the internet, and this week I'm excited to be back bringing you an episode after a week off and visiting with our hometown heroes, our friends from the Los Angeles Ghostbusters, Matt, Zunich, and Miguel Medina. Matt and Miguel, of course, have been on the podcast before and joined us to talk with us about the different fundraising initiatives that they've been involved with Starlight Foundation, and it's one of the things we're going to talk about today as well. But the big reason they're on is because they had the opportunity to celebrate Ghostbusters Day at the Los Angeles City Council and participate in declaring June 8th Ghostbusters Day within the city of Los Angeles. And so we're going to touch base with them and find out how their ceremony went, how their public speeches went. I don't actually give any grades on them, though I kind of threatened to, etc. But I digress. It's a really fun episode, and it was really great to talk with Matt and Miguel and to catch up a bit, especially given that I was in New York for the event and didn't get an opportunity to check it out. But before we can get into that conversation with Matt and Miguel, we of course need to find out what's gone on in the last 2 weeks of Ghostbusters. And so we need to jump into some Ghostbusters headlines.
Still making headlines all across the country, the Ghostbusters are at it again.
Today, the entire eastern seaboard is alive with talk of incidents of paranormal activity.
Call-in topic today, ghosts and ghost busting.
Extraplasm, read all about it. Ghostbusters headlines coming at you.
We're going to start off this week, of course, with Ghostbusters media news, or rather official media news. And the big story of the week is that the physical media releases of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire are now available in stores. So if you've pre-ordered, that may also mean that it's perhaps in your mailbox or perhaps even in your Blu-ray or DVD player at this point. Mine is not, because apparently living in California means that you get everything, I don't know, a day after everybody else in the country, even though everybody who makes the movies is apparently based here. I don't know. I don't know really don't know how it works. But anyway, while the movie has only been around on sale for a couple of days, thanks to pre-orders, it has immediately claimed the number 1 and number 2 spots on Blu-ray.com sales charts, with the standard release taking slot 1 and the 4K release taking slot 2. It'll be interesting to see how this week of sales pans out in the home video charts. There's not much to talk about with respect to the home video release that's new, as there's nothing really offered on those discs that we haven't already seen in the digital releases, except that if you were dumb like me and you bought the digital release on Amazon and you couldn't access the director's commentary, now you can, because it's on the discs. So rest assured, I know what my weekend includes, and it's finally listening to Gil Kennan talk about Frozen Empire and to find out what he has to say about it, which is probably honestly the last thing I've not interacted with yet from the home release. But, we'll see. Another big official Ghostbusters media news item this week is that The Real Ghostbusters is back on television screens. And while I'd love to tell you that I mean we're getting new episodes of The Real Ghostbusters, like some sort of Frasier-style revival, what I'm really talking about is a new broadcast television network called MeTV, which essentially is airing tons of old school cartoons. This is a new network that's available in some cable markets, but not in all of them yet because it's so brandy new. You can also find it streaming over on actually like digital antenna broadcast in many major cities for free if you have a digital TV antenna. If you want to find out more about where you can watch in your area, you can check out www.metvtunes.com. What's kind of neat about this is that they are showing all of the episodes in the order that they were released, just like a syndicated show, that you would have watched as a kid. And they're coming on daily at like 7 o'clock in the morning in some markets, etc. So you can actually wake up and go to school all over again watching Real Ghostbusters, which is kind of interesting as a thought experiment. Or if you have kids, I guess you can show them how to do it, because you're probably a trained pro and expert at this point if you listen to Extraplasm. So check out MeTV Tunes. It's pretty cool. They also have a whole bunch of other stuff over there that I just haven't seen in years, and that is not necessarily in places like Cartoon Network, or what's the thing they made? It was something like Boom or something. I can't remember. One of you will write in and tell me. But I digress on that. You should go check out Real Ghostbusters for free if you can in your market. And if not, there's a lot of other places you can get it as well. What we might deem the most non-traditional media news we've had about official Ghostbusters stuff in a while is the story of Universal Studios Orlando's new live multimedia fireworks experience, Sensational, a symphonic spectacular. I feel like I probably just butchered that saying it, so apologies. That is a tongue twister. The show combines fireworks, projection mapping, music, lights, and coordinated drone performances, that's a thing, for a 22-minute celebration of some of Universal's best movies and some of the things they've licensed, like Ghostbusters, Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, Minions, The Mummy, King Kong, the Universal Monsters, Harry Potter, Shrek, and a whole bunch more. Ghostbusters News has reported on this. Jason Fitzsimmons has great coverage of this, and you should go over to the GB News website and take a look at the video he's embedded from the Inside Universal channel that shows what goes on during this. As Jason describes it, there are a series of visuals that are broadcast onto water features of Muncher, the Sentinel Terror Dog, Slimer, and the Ecto-1A. There's also, at certain points, drones that fly up into the sky and take the shape of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. This is kind of amazing and kind of kicks off what is going to be a summer of real celebration of Ghostbusters. I mean, we've talked about things like the tribute store opening up more Ghostbusters stuff or having more Ghostbusters stuff in it on the Universal Studios Orlando lot or, at the park. But this is like the beginning of a phase where they're going to be celebrating Ghostbusters on a regular basis because it's also going to be in the giant mega movies parade that's debuting on July 3rd. So if you live in Florida, if you have an opportunity to go to Universal Studios Orlando, you should absolutely check out Sensational Symphonic Spectacular. And if you are there after July 3rd, which is only a week away or so, then you should totally check out the parade too. Beyond the wonders of the moving image and related theme park applications, one additional piece of Ghostbusters media news is that the final issue of Ghostbusters Back in Town released today. As you're listening to the podcast, this wraps up the 4-issue miniseries, and the issue is summarized by Dark Horse as follows. The Ghostbusters face a dire situation when roach-infested ooze floods the firehouse and malevolent apparitions swarm freely. Phoebe, Callie, Trevor, and Gary clash with Madame Malveaux as she looms over Times Square, unleashing chaos upon New York City. Will our heroes survive this spectral crisis? I guess we'll find out. My guess is probably yes, given that this book takes place between Afterlife and Frozen Empire. So it's kind of like, yeah, they probably are all going to live is my guess. But that doesn't mean that it's not an interesting and cool story. And if you've been interested in Ghostbusters comic books and want to know if there's going to be more of them after you pick up the final copy of this book, or rather the final copy of this miniseries, as writer David Boer confirmed when he was on Extraplasm several months back, Dark Horse has already greenlit additional Ghostbusters comics, and David will be penning more stories to come. So there's more Ghostbusters comics on the way. Whether or not they're going to adhere to the same art style, I think, is a question we'll see. We'll definitely be dealing with the same writing team. On a personal level, I will say that I probably would like to see a change in the art style that we have in the comic book. I think that there are talented artists who even been on this show. Shout out John Urqueba. Who could probably do a great job. So let's move on now and talk about Ghostbusters merchandise for a few minutes. Since the last episode of Extraplasm, one significant merch happening that several of you have messaged me about to ask me what I think is that the Ghostbusters team over at Hasbro has released a roughly 10-minute video answering fans' top 10 questions about their forthcoming Ghost Trap and PKE Meter HasLab products. And I will say, if you've backed the 2-in-the-box HasLab and you haven't checked out this video, you totally should, as my explanations here are not going to do the demonstration of lights, sounds, and effects any justice. But I've talked about holding these items in NYC and didn't get to see them really do anything. They definitely felt rugged and awesome, and I've kind of laughed about the fact that at one point the Traps cartridge was dropped on the ground by somebody who was holding it, and it was fine. But now seeing them both in video, I'm even more impressed by what we are going to be getting, especially with the PKE meter's electronic functions. And surprisingly, I gotta be honest, I'm more impressed by the Spectre selector on the Trap than I thought I was going to be. I kind of thought it was a superfluous thing that I wouldn't really care about. But now that I've seen it, I kind of think it's cool. So here's a quick rundown of what we found out about the Trap and PKE meter coming from Hasbro. The first thing is the battery use. The PKE meter is going to require 3 AA batteries. The Ghost Trap is going to require 4 AA batteries. For the PKE meter, they're going to go in the handle. For the Ghost Trap, they're going to go inside the removable cartridge for your trap, which is an interesting change in configuration on where batteries go because they'll be kind of completely hidden inside, which is kind of neat. It also means that it's probably harder to have the battery door bust open on the bottom of your trap and lose your batteries. Hint, hint, Matty Collector owners or Spirit owners who have lost the side panel after losing the screw. In terms of sounds and lights, they have confirmed that the sounds being used are those provided by Sony and Ghost Core or that were otherwise approved if new. This is why your PKE meter sounds, your Ghost Trap sounds, etc. are all going to be consistent with canon representations from the films, which is amazing and something I totally love because I have needed a PKE meter that makes correct noises since the dawn of PKE meters. I love the Matty PKE, but it sounds like crap. The packaging was teased as well, and it appears to be somewhat similar to Plasma Series designs. There is a cute note from Janine Melnitz tacked to the current prototype box about needing to return the equipment, which is kind of funny. I kind of hope that Janine gets featured more heavily in Hasbro packaging because she doesn't get featured enough in other things. And in terms of the functionality of the PKE meter, they've confirmed that there are 3 different animation sequences. There are 2 of them that will be for the regular mode and 1 for when you are using it as a taser. There are 5 different speeds and different volumes and wing positions for each of those things, apparently. And when in taser mode, they have made sure that you can apparently shove it into people repeatedly and stab them and not break off the plastic tips, which is great. These are really cool. I have to be honest. I'm totally excited about what we're going to be getting in late fall. And they're saying that they're still on track to bring these to us as they expected by the end of fall this year. If there's one thing people are going to be disappointed about, I think it's that they have confirmed that there will be a timeout on these. And they've said that it's because they are toys. They have sort of a legal liability and a responsibility to create a timeout feature. But the timeout on these props is going to be 5 minutes rather than the sort of like 36 seconds that you get out of the Spengler wand. And any button will wake them back up apparently in the status they were in, which is kind of awesome because if you're one of the folks out there who develops ways of keeping things alive. In the last iteration of things, we had to watch our friends off in the Proton Pack modding community and the HasLab modding community figure out how to reverse engineer which circuits would let them keep things alive. In this case, essentially what they're telling us is, doesn't matter, tap into whatever you want, which is kind of cool. Makes things probably way easier for those of you who are going to develop things like accessory light kits or vapor kits or whatever else you're going to come up with. I'm sure one of you is going to decide to turn that thing into a real taser. Don't do that. But I'm sure someone's going to try. And I guess it'll be really easy to wake back up. So there's a lot more coming from Hasbro. Obviously, when we get these things, we're going to see more videos and more information about them. And don't forget, like we've had another HasLab tease to us as of Ghostbusters Day that for all intents and purposes looks to be my dream Ecto 1. We'll see. I don't know anything. I'm making that speculation off of the buttons we were handed at the firehouse and the logo that they've been putting on things. So I have to say, I'm really excited about what Hasbro is doing right now. And I hope that we get to find out more about it and more about this upcoming HasLab soon. And, who knows? Maybe we'll get to talk to some of those folks who work on those Hasbro toys because they're pretty rad people. And it was great to meet them at the firehouse a few weeks ago. Moving on from Hasbro's upcoming HasLab delivery to some toys and collectibles that are available right now, Walmart has revealed several items that are now showing up at some stores nationwide and are not all available yet for shipment. First, there's a portable mini puffed 3D figural lamp that measures about 7 inches tall and runs off of an internal USB rechargeable battery. So the one thing about this that tells you that it's not a mini puffed is it has a USB-C port on it, which is weird. Kind of a cool concept. I think that my impression looking at it is that the lights are probably somewhere in his stomach and this leaves his head kind of poorly illuminated. But the thing I actually kind of think is coolest about this is that when it needs to be charged or when it's charging and it's not yet complete, it turns red. When it's actually charged, it's green. And, otherwise it glows white. I wish there was a button on it to you could change the color of a mini puffed. Like, I want a rainbow mini puff now. It's a good idea. A glowing rainbow mini puffed. Why not? This does not supplant garden gnomes at all as the thing we absolutely need first. But why not? Let's get a color changing mini puffed. I want one. But this is something pretty cool that you can check out at Walmart stores exclusively, it seems. A second collectible item that is arriving at Walmart's is a Bluetooth speaker in the shape of the Ecto 1, though notably, if you have been on Ghostbusters social media in the last 3 days, you probably know it doesn't have a roof rack, because that is the thing that people in social media are up in arms about. This is because the speaker grill is on the top of it, so they chose not to put stuff on top of the speaker grill. Personally, every time a new Ghostbusters speaker comes out, I sort of want to get it just to listen to Extraplasm through it once as a gag. But I probably won't pick this up, to be honest, because I have enough Bluetooth speakers in my life that I don't need to collect more of them. So both the lamp and the Bluetooth speaker are going to set you back just under $35 if those are things you're interested in. Walmart also has a shirt available from apparel maker Mad Engine featuring the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire logo on a distressed gray shirt. The shirt comes in a cardboard box that they say resembles a VHS cassette box, but I don't think it does at all. It just looks like a cardboard box to me. If you can figure out how it's a VHS cassette box, let me know. That costs only $12.98 though. So if you're interested in picking up a shirt for less than $15, go for it. You can get it from Walmart. If you want to find any of those products, you can find the links to get most of them from Ghostbusters News. Go check out Jason's most recent story about the products available at Walmart. And speaking of t-shirts a moment ago, I should stop and also recognize a few other apparel announcements that have come out in the last couple of weeks. First, the big reveal of new Ghostbusters apparel that has come from Fright Rags this week is that there's a whole bunch of shirts out there and some other souvenir stuff. Again, I'm going to direct you over to Ghostbusters News because Jason Fitzsimmons has great coverage of all these different items, as well as a video, I think, where he talks about this, if I'm not incorrect. But there are several shirts they have on offer. One of them is a Slimer's New York pizza shirt, as if Slimer ran a pizzeria. Another one is for a 24-hour lock and key service that's called Keymaster, that has a neon image of a terror dog's head on it. These are kind of cool, although I will admit that I would have been way more interested in that Slimer's New York pizza shirt if it wasn't on a distressed gray shirt and if it didn't look distressed. Let me beat up my own t-shirts. I don't need you to do that for me before I buy them, okay? Folks over at Fright Rags, it's a really nice shirt, but for $33, let me put the wear and tear on them rather than you do it first. That's my thought. So the reason why I probably won't pick up the Slimer's New York pizza shirt, quite frankly. When it comes to other stuff they've got on offer, they have a souvenir movie theater style cup set that apparently features Gozer the Gozerian, an Ecto 1 that's driving through New York City, and essentially has the first film's most memorable ghosts, as Jason Fitzsimmons puts it. That cup set is priced appropriately at $19.84, because that's fun. Why not? We should make more prices just based off the year a movie came out. There's also a button set that's available that has several different options in it. 5 buttons for only $7. So that's not too bad. And if you spend over $50 with Fright Rags, apparently they're going to give you a little tub of something called Frightoplasm that just happens to look almost exactly like Kenner Ectoplasm from when you were a kid. So I don't know if that's still available. I get the understanding that that is sort of like while supplies last. So if you haven't bought these things yet, you might find out that you can't get your Frightoplasm anymore. But if you want to grab those Fright Rag shirts, go ahead and get them. Because if you know anything about Fright Rag shirts, they sell out and then you can't get them until they either decide to reproduce them several years later or never again because they don't decide to do that. So check it out. Go check out the Fright Rag stuff. And if you want to find it quickly, all centralized in one place with some commentary, you can check out Ghostbusters News. One more t-shirt offering to know about. Old Navy has a new Ghostbusters t-shirt that's super, super cheap right now because it's part of their hot deals promotion. So it's 40% off and is only $11.99. This is a white t-shirt with a black and white Ghostbusters photo of the entire 4 OGs leaning against the Ecto 1, and the film's title is presented above it in red. This ranges in sizes from small to XXL. So regardless of whether you're the tiniest or the biggest Ghostbusters fan, you can buy one and you can get it for less than $12. Head over to oldnavy.com to check that out. Moving away from apparel, Prime Party, which is apparently a party supply company, has launched a new collection of Ghostbusters stuff that includes all kinds of things like Ghost Trap favor boxes, Slimer branded plates, wooden cutouts of the mini puffs, a pin the plate on the Ecto 1 game in the style of Pin the Tail and the Donkey. What? Photo booth props, water bottle labels that are name tapes, mini puffed mayhem placemats with Ghostbusters themed accessories like word searches and hidden Slimer activities on them. These are kind of cool, I gotta be honest. As much as it's just kind of party stuff, it's probably the most robust set of party stuff I've seen come out for kids since we were kids. For most of us who are listening to the podcast, like there's more on offer here to put together a Ghostbusters party than probably has been in years, unless you were to look at a, $24.99 box of stuff that all came together from Spirit Halloween that is usually out of print. So if you haven't seen this stuff, Jason Fitzsimmons has a video on this and links. You can go over and take a look at what they have on offer. And his video is so good that they actually began using it on their own website to illustrate and show off their own stuff, because Jason's awesome. So check this out, especially if you have a small person in your life, a kid, who you're going to be doing a birthday party for. This is like a one-stop shop to get everything you'd need for an awesome Ghostbusters party, from interactive games to water bottle labels to, party favors, etc. It's pretty amazing. One final piece of official Ghostbusters merch news. The Lego Ghostbusters Afterlife Ecto 1 is being retired in 2024. There will be no more production of that item in 2025. That doesn't mean that it will immediately be pulled off of shelves. You're not going to find it down at an Ollie's for 70% off. It's not like the Plasma series. Sorry, Hasbro. But the thing I would say here to consider is that the way that Lego does their sets is that they do production on them, they release them out to stores, and at a certain point they turn off the factory switch and no more of that set will be produced. Essentially, the list of sets that are getting canceled has been put out, and I shouldn't say canceled because they're just not being produced anymore after several years, and the Ecto 1's on it. So if you don't have an Afterlife Ecto 1, you probably want to get one before the end of the year. Because come 2025, the inventory will likely run out of what's available out there, and it will be no different than chasing down the Ghostbusters Firehouse or the old school Ecto 1, where you will pay way more money to be able to put one in your collection. So my advice is try and grab one while you can. And given that this is now one that's going to be retired and not really considered new, you may find that it's actually something that some of the Target sales on Legos and things that happen around the holiday season might actually apply to. Sometimes the Target sales on Legos are restricted in terms of what sets they will apply to, and licensed stuff doesn't necessarily get the clearance applied to it. But at this point out, with a set that's being retired, you may actually find it for cheaper later on this year. And I guess we can throw one more piece of official Ghostbusters merch or media news in here that's kind of late breaking since the podcast is out late. And that's that Ilphonic has finally showed off what they'll be doing with the DLC to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Ghostbusters, despite the fact that they kind of missed that deadline by for several weeks. They have shown off the 2 Slimer skins that will be available to folks, as they sort of promised that Slimer would be a part of the upcoming DLC package. There won't be a new level in that new DLC, but there are apparently going to be some bug fixes. Jason Fitzsimmons has great coverage of this after checking out the DLC preview stream that happened today on the day the podcast came out. Normally, I wouldn't be telling you this because the podcast would have been recorded earlier, but life happens, everybody, and that's why we're doing this a little bit late. So in terms of what to expect for that DLC, you should expect that you're going to be able to play as the real Ghostbusters version of Slimer and the movie version of Slimer. There are 2 new renditions, essentially, of Slimer. They are going to have the same abilities as the Ectoplast, and apparently will involve things like Brainy's Glob Throw and Winky's Sludge Puddle. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, because I want Slimer to use the same features he already has rather than a different ghost, but I guess we'll see how he plays. Beyond that, there will also be apparently a new bounty level that will allow you to unlock the different versions of Slimer, and some sort of side hustle mission that's going to be involved in things by trapping the RGB rendition, as Jason puts it. There will also be some new customization options available for you, including a ragged suit tint, a checkered board suit tint, and a half-tone ragged suit tint, apparently, which were kind of interesting. These are apparently unlocked at levels 96 and level 92. I'm level 100, so just give me my stuff, and I'll see you in there. They have talked about resolving some problems with infinite loading screens and crashes, situations where players couldn't join a playable match, apparently exploitable situations in Fun Zone and Station that I'll be interested to see what they are. And they're going to fix the cosmetics on boots so that people's pants will be properly tucked into them again. It's not really clear when this update is coming, but it is coming sometime soon. And I think we are yet to see what the winning Ghost is going to be in terms of the final DLC we get later on this year. So that's kind of interesting to know about. But again, Spirits Unleashed, we don't have this DLC yet, but by the time we have another Extraplasm, maybe it'll be out, maybe I will have played it, and maybe I'll have a review of how I feel about it. We'll see. Okay, let's move from official merch and media things that we're kind of doing a little bit out of order into talking about a few unofficial and fan-created things to know about this week. First thing I want to talk about really quickly is welcome back to our friends over at Phantasm Toys, who, unfortunately, there was no Extraplasms for me to talk about it, that they had a new set of Crypt Creepers out that are some updated takes on existing characters, as well as some new ones. Like there's a Nintendo that's haunted that's really awesome, and a grandfather clock that's apparently haunted that is apparently now named Old Timer as a result of a contest they ran. I just want to make it clear to everybody, the proper name of that figure is Hato Clock, and it is a legitimate phenomenon. I said so. That was the correct winning choice. Tony and Brendan, I love you. Your stuff is great. You can still come on Extraplasm. You know, Tony, you're still kind of like the part-time co-host of the show when I feel like it. But that naming, my name was way better. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to throw my hat out there and I'd be firm about this. Hato Clock is the true name of that character. Maybe I'll put out like a series of limited edition bootleg clamshells for people to put that in, so that way they can feel like they got, you know, things done right for them. I'm really just giving Tony and Brendan crap here. The new figures were amazing and everybody should go check them out. I totally love them. And there are so many cool new characters that they have available that you got to see because they're great. And they're more interactive now. Like they have a new toaster that comes with toast. That you can put into the toaster or take out. It's haunted. It's great. I love it. So go and check out phantasmshop.com. That's the new URL where you're going to find all the stuff that you used to find at phantasmtoys.com. And so there's prints, shirts, new little minifigures. Go check out what's available and on offer over there because those guys are great and we love them. Beyond that, I want you to know that artist Nick Ross's Ectosysm comic series continues this week with issue number 3. You can find it probably most easily by going to Instagram.com/NickRoss138 because that's his Instagram page, and then clicking on the Mediafire link in his bio to access the PDFs of the comic book. This week, apparently, the team is going to find themselves in an all-night Waffle House to discover that New York and the world is once again in danger as Shandor Tower is being restored. There's been some debate about this art style and debate about this, you know, comic book in terms of whether it's all authentic oil paintings, how much of it is digital pastiche, etc. But I will just say it. I'm really enjoying this book. I'm really enjoying the story in this book, and I'm really enjoying the art style that's being done with it, regardless of how it's being created. I don't think it's AI, unless AI means all integrity, everybody. But I've heard that. I've heard people suggest that it's all AI work, and I'm like, really? The guy has paintings on his Facebook page. Check them out. So maybe we'll try and have Nick on a future Extraplasm so we can talk more about Ectosysm. But in the meantime, you should totally go check it out because it's really cool. It's a really fun story, and I'm really enjoying it. Beyond the stuff from Crypt Creepers and beyond the stuff from Nick Ross, the other cool thing to know about this week is that there is, in fact, an available mod for a different Ghostbusters game instead of Spirits Unleashed. Jason Fitzsimmons has really cool coverage of this. There is apparently a mod that's available on Nexus Mods, which is a website full of different PC mods, where you can get suits for the Ghostbusters remastered video game that are essentially real Ghostbusters suits that have been upscaled 4 times and have better visuals. If you look at these, they look like something that would be put out on a console or a PC today versus the remastered version of a game from 2009 or whatever it was that came out in, what was that? 2019, 2021? I can't even remember at this point, right? So really cool. I actually want to try this out and play it and sort of take a look at it. And apparently there's some other mods out there on Nexus Mods. So maybe we'll do that as like a weird special feature on Extraplasm sometime soon. But that kind of wraps up your headlines for this week. There might be newer stuff that's coming because, again, the podcast is a little bit late, but here's the good news. There'll be a new episode next week where if I miss something from this week, we'll cover it then. So let's go now from the coverage of headlines here for this week to my conversation with Matt Zunich and Miguel Medina as we dig into the Ghostbusters Day event that happened in Los Angeles and the ongoing support that Ghostbusters fans are going to be providing to Starlight Foundation to do a new wave of Ghostbusters gowns in 2024. Joining me on Extraplasm Podcast, two of my favorite people because they are the hometown heroes of Extraplasm, Matt Zunich and Miguel Medina of the Los Angeles Ghostbusters, fresh from the LA Ghostbusters big reveal of the 40th anniversary and Ghostbusters Day announcement in Los Angeles. Matt, Miguel, great to have you both here. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Jim. Thanks for having us back on.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. You're always welcome to come on Extraplasm. I'm happy to have you here. Miguel, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I've recovered. I've rested. So yeah, I'm golden.
I'm sure that given the amount of work that you have done recently with fundraising and raising awareness about the things we're going to talk about related to Starlight Foundation, as well as being present for the big Ghostbusters Day announcement and then representing, basically LA Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters fandom on the lot for Ghostbusters Day, like you've had a very busy June so far. So I appreciate your need for rest, and I'm glad you got it.
It was an awful lot of work, but we were able to have some rest after a very long, but just absolutely incredible Ghostbusters Day, or Ghostbusters Days, really. I mean, the 7th and the 8th were just packed. And I think, we had a small event that following Monday at the Lawless Brewing Company in North Hollywood. So we ended up having 3 events that weekend in the span of like 2.5, 3 days. And it was very, very tiring, but I mean, so worth it. Like, Miguel, I think you'd agree.
Yeah, we actually would have had another event Sunday if I had signed us up for the LA Pride Parade. Nothing against the parade itself, but we did need a break. And we did 2 Pride parades already, so that weekend was really packed.
We did like 2 Pride parades like within like a week of one another. And one of them was the West Hollywood Pride Parade, which was absolutely bonkers.
I saw a lot of your photos from that, and like I have to be real in saying that you definitely blew out Ghostbusters Day and blew out like Pride and all the things that you've been doing throughout June. But one of the reasons I want to stress that I think that you might be a little bit tired is that, there's been a lot of discussion on this podcast about the event that happened in New York. I was there, which was cool. We've had Buffalo on talking about it. And sometimes when I talk to folks who I know, I get to find out about things they're working on they can't talk about yet. And that was the case for you both for quite a while. And I need to say this because like that event that happened in LA, we're going to talk about, obviously, like, I'm so stoked that Ghostbusters Day happened, that you got to be down at City Hall and what have you. And that there's another wave of fundraising happening with Starlight, because I think that cause is so amazing. And I've talked about that with you both a million times, but like, I want to stress for anybody out there who's listening to the podcast who was like, oh, wow, they did something down at City Hall. They like threw that together. No, like the two of you have been planning that for so long. Like, and it was something where you were like, we have a thing going on. We can't tell you what it is, but yeah, it's going to be in the City Hall. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, and so I know that this was a very rigorous thing for you and it required a lot of effort. And so that's why we're going to get into it and talk about it, because I think people need to hear about, not just like, hey, there was Ghostbusters Day acknowledged at City Hall, but what was that all about? How did that all come together? And like, what does it mean moving forward?
Yeah, it was months in the making. Matt knows about this, obviously, but we've been talking about it for months. I'd say like we kind of try to pick up the momentum at the beginning of the year. And I proposed the idea to our admin team back in November after an event we had done, and I just been thinking about it, and I looked into it on my own and said, okay, how does one pull this off? How does one make this happen? So after I kind of got some research done on my own, I brought it to the table and I said, I want to propose this idea for a Ghostbusters Day. in June for the 40th anniversary, and I want to include Starlight and the Ghostbusters franchise and Sony specifically. So it's a grand vision I had, and I wanted to make it happen, bring it to realization. So I want to say like just off the top, I don't think I could have pulled this off. We could have pulled this off if we didn't have the right people in the group. Like we had the cream of the crop, basically, at least for me. And I could rely on, Matt. We trust each other. We know, like, we believed in each other, and we had the support of our group. And, eventually we had the support of Sony, Starlight, and the city to work together and make this thing happen. And it was fantastic. Honestly, it hasn't even sunken in fully yet. It's that grand of an experience, an event. And it's like, wow, we did that.
I think, it's a thing to consider that, like, for us to get together and organize a fan event, is a ton of effort. And this is like in no way a reduction of anything that's gone on in terms of like what goes on from the Buffalo Ghostbusters or NYC Ghostbusters or any of the folks who came out for the Firehouse. But in some ways, like, that municipal interaction that has to happen is locally with them with the Firehouse. Like, there's not a whole engagement in the political system, which in your case, like, you had to essentially go and figure out how to convince folks within politics in LA to make this something that they would even like entertain as a thing to do, like at the same time as they were like making votes about, I don't know, parking enforcement or engaging union leaders who were coming to argue about things on the city floor or city council floor. So I don't know. Can you tell us a little bit about like the story of like, how did this come together? Like, how did you end up engaging with the local city council to figure out how to create a Ghostbusters Day and recognize the sort of instrumental role that Los Angeles has played in sort of the story of Ghostbusters?
Well, we ended up, there was initially, we were going to pursue one particular avenue, and we actually kind of hit a brick wall, like very early on. People's schedules are what they are. And, a lot of times, something that doesn't fall under like your official business or under your official calendar, it falls by the wayside. And that's just what it is. They don't know us, and seeing an email from us, they're like, oh, I'll get to that. And, sometimes it just doesn't happen right away. But, we were starting to run out of time, or we kind of felt like, boy, man, we really need to start making some moves with this. Otherwise it might, we may miss it. And we were fortunate enough that at the comic book event that we did at We Can Be Heroes Comics, we were introduced to David Phelps, who runs his own PR firm. And he actually had a connection in the mayor's office. And so he said, hey, I heard what you guys are trying to do. How can I help? And we were just like, here's how you can help. And he was just, I can't state this more clearly. Like, our event happened because David was able to get us in touch with the right people and was able to initiate the conversations with the right people. And without him, I don't think it would have come together, at least the way that we had hoped. And so we owe him a massive, massive thank you. So David, if you're listening, thank you so much. I told you this in person, but I'm telling you now, and all the listeners, thank you so much for helping us with that event, because it could not have happened without you. But yeah, that was kind of once he came on board, and once we were able to get the conversations rolling with, Paul Krikorian's office and the mayor's office, and we were able to kind of bring, our contacts at Sony and Starlight in on that, things just picked up steam. And there were a lot of calls and meetings where we were talking about, okay, so what do we do with this? What do we do with, this. Oh, okay, we want the car, but, do we want these inflatables or do we want this? And sometimes it was very, very challenging, but worth every minute of stress, I would say.
So tell me a bit then, like, how did this come together that you decided then? I mean, you were trying to pull this off as like get it recognized as Ghostbusters Day, but where was the intersection in this that sort of involves Starlight? Like, because I mean, this is something I think we want to talk about for sure and highlight in what you're doing. Like, yeah, you celebrated Ghostbusters Day, hooray! Like, that's great. It was June 8th, and we all celebrated Ghostbusters, yay! But like, the point of doing that had a larger goal, right? Which is that there's this connection to Starlight Foundation and sort of the charitable effort that you've undertaken, and lots of Ghostbusters franchises and even Extraplasm is donated towards. Not to be like, hey, I'm awesome, but I am.
Extraplasm has a fundraising page on the Starlight gown fundraiser.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's right. We do. We did things, audience. We did things. Let's feel good about it together.
Yeah.
But like, for real, like, how did this come together as what you're talking about? Like, you make it sound very simple of like, well, we went and talked to our partners at Ghostbusters and our partners at at Starlight. And then that was just a thing. Like, how does this come together that like you actually can get involved with like a nonprofit organization and say, hey, we have an idea to make an official governmental proclamation and we want you involved as its beneficiary? Like,
well, I mean,
it looks easy, when you look back on it, but it's not.
I know it's not. That's why I'm asking you this question, because you undersell this story when you tell it sometimes.
Well, for me, at least, with starting to get the ball rolling, very, just like one rotation or whatever, one rotation forward, is just reaching out to Sony and asking, proposing this idea, and they were on board with it, off the bat. They thought it was a great idea, so we said,
right
okay,
away.
great, yeah. So we said, okay, great, we got your approval, so let's start strategizing. And I think Matt kind of took the lead with Starlight, getting them on board with like in terms of like support and kind of just putting a spotlight on them as well, because they've been basically like family to us. They've been great. We helped them out, and they've helped us out too. And it's a partnership, but it just feels like they're friends, friends of the group, and obviously we're, all the work we've done for them for these causes, for the gowns, especially, it's like, it's just made a huge impact. And, we wanted to kind of share the celebration with them is kind of like the idea of what we wanted to accomplish there. But Matt can tell you more about that.
Beautifully put, because that was our launching off point. This is a celebration of the franchise as well as a celebration of what the fandom is capable of when it comes together. And so Sony was, and we were so thankful that they were very much on board from the second Miguel sent that email proposing it to them. They were immediately like, yes, this sounds great. Just tell us how we can be supportive. But you have our approval. Let us know what else you need. And when it came to convincing the folks at City Hall, like, they thought the whole idea sounded really cool. The big thing was, how does this relate to Los Angeles? Because as we were reminded by a lot of comments on social media was, doesn't the movie take place in New York? And it's like, well,
isn't a lot of it filmed in LA? So, as a former, look, I'm going to do this real quick because I just want to put this in there. If you were that kind of person who left that kind of comment, as a former New Yorker who lives in LA, who loves going back to New York and represents New York very highly and was just at the Firehouse, I can also remind you that tons of what happens with this franchise only happens because it happened in LA, and you can officially kiss my ass. Now we can move forward.
You heard him. So to those comments, I actually did reply to a couple of them, and I said, you're absolutely right. Like, I hope they do something like this in New York if they haven't already. I don't know if they have. But I would wager that if you took a stopwatch to the entire first and second movie, because we all know the interiors were all shot in L.A.
Yeah.
Almost every single interior set is shot in L.A.
Right.
That the amount of running time for the movie is mostly L.A. I would say it's well over 70%.
Kind of like the most recent movie, most of the running time is a completely different country.
Yep.
Yeah.
So our pitch to the city was, well, yeah, the movie takes place in New York, but primarily the first two films especially were shot in LA.
Yeah.
And their legacy is just as much LA's legacy as it is New York's. New York maybe the setting of the movie, but the production, people who worked on it, their livelihoods were made here.
Right.
And we mentioned Starlight because we just, we want to mention the charitable aspect in everything we do because it's kind of the whole point of what we do. We said, and also like Starlight is a Los Angeles-based charity. They operate nationwide, but their central offices are here in Los Angeles. And we're here in Los Angeles, and we like waved to them. We're like, "Hi, why should we hold this in LA?" And we just like silently like wave, like, "Well, we're over here." So, but when we kind of broke it down to them that like, well, most of the movies are shot here, the LA-based charity, and we work with, and Jim, you've been to our events, like we work with local, independently owned businesses to do events here.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not just about like the franchise taking place here. It's about what the franchise is doing here within the fan community.
Right.
And once we pitched them on that angle, they then were like, they were very much on board. And then it just became about, is the mayor going to come or isn't she going to come?
Right.
And with the whole thing happened with the mayor's like blessing, and she wanted to be there, but unfortunately the schedules could not align.
So wait, I want to be clear about this. It's only the mayor of New York that wants to shut the Ghostbusters down.
No,
not the mayor of Los Angeles.
Yeah. No, Mayor Karen Bass has run a strictly pro Ghostbusters policy.
She's a fan. She's a fan.
Yeah,
she believes.
She's a big fan. No,
she's ready to believe us. Yes.
Yeah.
And anybody listening out there who is like confused and thinks that I legitimately mean that the actual mayor of New York wants to shut down Ghostbusters, like I'm talking about Frozen Empire before anybody emails me.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? He might want to. Who knows? Nobody asks him.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know New York politics.
I don't remember.
Look, I'm not trying to start a rivalry between LA and New York.
Mayor
but no.
Yeah.
We wanted to see the mayor there, but we get it, and it's not anyone's fault. It's just like, it didn't work out. But Paul Krikorian did preside over our session. He's the city council president, and he gave a really wonderful introduction, a really wonderful speech, and introduced us at the podium. So that was really, really cool.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, let's go ahead and drop that in right here, and then people can hear that.
Well, good morning, Mr. President and members. I have an opportunity to present a very fun presentation today, but also one with a lot of deep significance and meaning, especially to children in our community. It was 40 years ago, and Councilmember Rodriguez, when we're doing these 40-year retrospectives that we've been doing, I don't know, those 40 years went by very quickly. But 40 years ago, Ghostbusters burst onto the scene, one of the great comedy films of the 80s, which was the first of what would become a franchise. And it really not only represented a terrific comedic accomplishment, but it also stood for many of the things that we talk about often when we talk about the importance of keeping filming here in Los Angeles. A major motion picture like this that was set primarily in New York and LA stood in for New York. And I just love it when we do this. There was a scene investigating a haunting reported in the basement of the New York Public Library. It was shot right here at our own Los Angeles Central Library. When the Ghostbusters team was looking for a building to set up as their headquarters, they found a decommissioned firehouse. It was our own historic fire station number 23 on East 5th Street, the former headquarters of the Los Angeles Fire Department. When they received their first call and the Ghostbusters team was dispatched to the Sedgwick Hotel, they were in reality showing up at the Millennium Biltmore. So, when you have these sorts of examples of the ability to film in Los Angeles, this is what creates thousands and thousands of good middle-class jobs right here in LA, and it emphasizes why we have to work so hard to make sure that our heritage industry stays right here in Los Angeles. So I want to thank all of those from Ivan Reitman to on down, all of those from the 1980s who were responsible for making sure that Ghostbusters took place here. But in addition to that, Ghostbusters continues to this day to pay great benefits for the people of Los Angeles. And I'm really pleased to be joined here today by representatives from the Starlight Children's Foundation, as well as Los Angeles Ghostbusters. The Starlight Children's Foundation is an LA-based nonprofit organization that's committed to addressing the unique needs of children in hospitals and providing them with comfort and support. And Los Angeles Ghostbusters, I'm not sure how long they've been doing it, but as you can see looking around me, they are a very popular cosplay group that provides an authentic Ghostbusters experience while raising awareness for many philanthropic causes. And they've been a fundraising partner for the Starlight Children's Foundation for the past 3 years, really making a difference in young people's lives in some of the most difficult times that they experience. So to celebrate the franchise's 40th anniversary, the Starlight Children's Foundation, LA Ghostbusters, and Sony Pictures have partnered to create Ghostbusters-themed hospital gowns to try to uplift and bring a little bit of joy to their young patients. Los Angeles Ghostbusters have partnered with small local businesses as well as Sony to raise over $55,000 for Starlight and led a national campaign that raised over $41,000 to create Ghostbusters-themed hospital gowns for children, not just here in LA, but across the country as well. So I'm so grateful that for over 40 years, Starlight Children's Foundation has delivered happiness to over 21 million seriously ill children and their families. So members, please help me welcome the senior manager of the Starlight Children's Foundation, Madison Shearer.
Hello, everyone. On behalf of the children and families Starlight supports, I want to offer my heartfelt gratitude to the Los Angeles Ghostbusters for an incredibly inspiring 3 years of partnership with Starlight, and to Sony, Ghost Corps, and the City of LA for celebrating their efforts today. When a child faces serious illness or injury, it can often be an emotional and stressful experience, even in the best possible care. That's why Starlight exists. We ensure hospitals are easier places for kids to be. Through our Fandom with Purpose initiative, Starlight is proud to work with fan groups like the Los Angeles Ghostbusters to channel their enthusiasm and creativity to deliver happiness to hospitalized kids. This spirit of community and giving is at the heart of Fandom with Purpose. United by their shared appreciation for this beloved fandom, the LA Ghostbusters and other fan groups have donated their time and resources to support Starlight's mission. From day one, they have built their group on a foundation of giving back, and Starlight is fortunate to support their efforts by helping kids in the hospital suit up, enhancing their confidence and resilience through difficult treatments and procedures. Because of their generous support, Starlight can continue to innovate and enhance our programs to transport kids out of the hospital and into their favorite stories through video games, books, toys, and character-themed hospital gowns, like this one. Can you see it? Yeah. Last year, with the support of Sony and Ghost Corps, the first Ghostbusters-themed Starlight hospital gowns were hand-delivered by the LA Ghostbusters to Miller Children's Hospital in Long Beach, as you just saw. Hospitals in New York, Florida, Arizona, Texas, Illinois, Minnesota, and more also received these special gowns, representing the local communities of other Ghostbusters fan groups who came together in support of this initiative and Starlight's mission. Their collective efforts raised over $40,000 to fund the first 1,000 gowns, a rapidly assembled community effort like nothing Starlight has seen before. They continue to fundraise to bring more of these hospital gowns to young patients, building a legacy that we hope will inspire others to join this movement of compassion and creativity. To quote one of the LA Ghostbusters founding members, "Happiness is healing, physically for some, mentally for others." As kids across the country suit up with their Ghostbusters-themed Starlight gowns and face their greatest challenges yet, one thing is clear. Ghostbusters Day isn't just about celebrating an iconic and timeless franchise. It's about recognizing the unifying and healing power of community spirit. I'll close with a message from Starlight kid Leo, who received his Ghostbusters-themed Starlight gown to wear during his surgery this past February. "Thank you so much. I appreciate you making me look so cool." Thank you.
That's really awesome. I think it's really neat to like be invited into the city council chambers and to kind of have the recognition, of the floor. Like all city business is stopping to be like, Ghostbusters is going on, right? Like, and to acknowledge like the efforts that, yes, that like you all have made, but that Ghostbusters as a whole has kind of had as an impact, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. What was really interesting was that day. But by the way, like we had no idea how many people were going to come. We had to be kind of tight-lipped with the whole thing pretty much right up until a few days beforehand. Like,
yeah,
I think it was basically about getting like each party to kind of agree on what would be announced, what wouldn't be announced. And for a while, we just couldn't say anything.
Right.
And so we were really kind of not sure, like, man, we really wanted to promote this a little bit more, but we get it. People don't want to, promote things that are still up in the air because they may not happen. So we were really kind of bracing for like, the chamber might be empty. Little did we know that hundreds of Ghostbuster fans were going to be there, but there was also going to be the hotel workers union that has been striking and having bringing resolutions to the floor. And they were already in the chamber. And so we got up there and half the chamber are Ghostbuster fans. The other half of the chamber are wearing these bright red union shirts. And we're just like, oh, that's why there's so many people that are still outside. Like as soon as we got there, we saw all the people. We're like, oh my God, we're going to pack the place. And then it's like, oh, there's a union in here and they're on strike.
It kind of makes sense that you had an issue filling the chamber with Ghostbusters fans because of, hotel union laborers, because after all, they all wanted to know, what the hell are you doing? Because hotel laborers have been put through the ringer by Ghostbusters. We all know this.
Yeah.
Oh no.
We thought she was someone else.
Yeah. Funny enough, when we were in the chamber, one of the union people came up to us and was like, can I just get your photo real quick? And we're like, yeah, sure. And I just, as she like went back to her seat, I was like, by the way, the Ghostbusters are a very pro-union organization, and they just cheered. And I do want to say that speaking personally, I won't speak on behalf of all of LA Ghostbusters, but I can speak for me personally, like as somebody who was striking with WGA and SAG last year, that I am very pro-union, and I was more than happy to share the chamber. I wish we could have gotten more people up there, especially some of the people that we invited. But it was still just, I still respect the heck out of their courage and their determination to get fair wages and fair working conditions.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting to consider that like you were there and that you had this opportunity recognized, but you were absolutely in the halls of politics in Los Angeles. Like there were things going on, right? There's things that are happening. There's lawmaking going on. There's debates that are going to happen after you leave the chambers and go outside and hang out with Ecto 1 or whatever else is going to go on.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the daily business. And like even being involved in it at all is kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like in a weird way, it's like going to court. Like going to court was like a party.
It felt like it. It felt like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can give you like my like not rant, but just like my recollection of that whole morning. And just like it's hard to really like articulate what I was feeling. You know, for me it's like just like this is really happening. We're here. The day has finally arrived. Like this is like it's gonna happen, you know. And then like with all great things that we've done, it's like, and then it'll be over before we know it, because it's, you know, it's just time is precious, you know, and it's a precious like experience, a precious like memory that I have, and you know, I think we're all gonna cherish it, you know, forever. But yeah, no, it's like what Matt was saying. Like once we got in there, we actually we had the opportunity to go a few days before to City Hall, basically kind of to do like a run through, and just familiarize ourselves with the environment and the space that we had to work with. And there were logistics involved. There were just planning points that we had to discuss, and you know, this helped us, and it helped City Hall as well to kind of like make sure we're on the same page about everything, because we've never done anything to this scale, and so this is all new to us. Like, you know, I've mentioned it to the rest of the group, but like I come from a long line of civil servants that have worked for the city of LA, and they're very proud of their careers and everything. And I'm like, yeah, so I held, you know, the city high for myself, and it's like, I kind of felt like, well, I'm making you guys proud, you know, I'm working with the city and all this. And, yeah, so like I told my aunt about it, and she was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Wow. But I got to see like how it works, especially in kind of like the political, arena. Not so much like the decision making, because I'm sure that happens, you know, behind closed doors, more serious matters, but just the way it works, the conversations, the meetings back and forth. What really I'd say like slowed us down is just the verbiage, the wording of certain things. Everything had to be like checked, because, so to be clear, we were saying that it's a proclamation. It's actually a resolution that the city council votes on, and it's voted in, right? And it's agreed on, and then, you know, they make it, they adopt it, I guess, and whatever. A proclamation is something I think the mayor has the power to do. She doesn't have the power to declare anything. It's just two different arenas. You know, the mayor does one thing, the city council does another thing. So that's why we're like, oh, okay, well, so you have to change the wording on certain things. So that's really kind of like what was like the roadblocks for us. It's like, okay, well, let's change that.
Yeah. Basically, like, we kept calling it a proclamation, and they were like, to be clear, only the mayor can make a proclamation. Since the mayor is not involved, this is a declaration, which the mayor cannot do.
So my understanding of it is like, what you're looking for is a legislative announcement as opposed to an executive one.
Yeah,
right?
There you
it's
go.
kind of like you need like your, which to be real, like this is the part where politics gets involved, and it's actually harder to pull off. If you could simply go to the mayor and be like, hi, mayor, could you just proclaim something Ghostbusters Day? And the mayor's like, sure. Then like you can do that, right? Like it's like passing an executive order and then just saying like you're going to have something happen if you're thinking about it at a federal level. But once you need that passed as a declaration that's coming from the city council, you actually need people who are on different sides of political aisles and who have all kinds of different other issues that they're working on, who they may have differences about, and personality differences, etc., to come to agreement to declare that, yeah, we should recognize this as Ghostbusters Day. right? Which to me, at least from my standpoint, sitting back and looking at it, seems like way harder.
Oh, very hard.
Yeah. Thankfully, though, because of, I think, Sony's involvement and their blessing, as well as our involvement with Starlight, it's like this looks, no matter what side of the political spectrum you fall on, this is a good thing overall. Like, hey, a bunch of people in the community take it upon themselves every day to get out there and fundraise for a good cause that you can actually see helping your community. And it just so happens to be involved with a movie franchise that is universally beloved. So, yeah, it's like,
I think that is part
win-win.
of it, right? Like, when you get down to it, I often say this, like, Ghostbusters is a weird thing at a political level because you can be somebody who is like old school Republican and libertarian and find yourself in that narrative very easily. You can be somebody who's progressive and who's very science oriented and find yourself in that narrative very easily. There's like really, and even if like you're somebody who's like got a real deep faith to things, it's like, well, Ray Stantz went to the seminary. So there's like some way to find yourself politically identified or culturally identified with inside Ghostbusters, I think. And the more they kind of spread out who can be a Ghostbuster, I think that becomes more and more true. That like, that in a weird way, like Ghostbusters is very universal. To be real, I know I have a lot of friends who like Ghostbusters, right? But like, do any of you know anyone in your life who you can honestly say is like, fuck Ghostbusters?
I know one podcaster who says it as a joke. It's funny because Jason Reitman, when he spoke at the City Hall event, he basically kind of acknowledged that, where he was like, there's a reason why the Ghostbusters wear like work suits, these work jumpsuits, and a reason why they drive like an ambulance. Like, it's anybody can do this. Like, it just has to be, you just got to throw the flight suit on and you got to have the courage and the fortitude to just get out there and do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, anybody can be a Ghostbuster.
Let's add that in there real quick for folks so they can take a listen to what Jason Reitman had to say on the day in City Hall. We're at City Hall sort of talking about the event.
Next up, I'd like to introduce Jason Reitman, who is a director and filmmaker and the son of one of our country's great filmmakers, Ivan Reitman, the director of the original Ghostbusters. Jason?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Frankly, the thing I want to say the most is that I wish my father could be here right now because he would be honored by this. I'm the grandchild of Holocaust survivors. My father came here with nothing, and the city of Los Angeles gave my father a place to make movies, to tell stories, and stories that reach the world. The most important of them was Ghostbusters. And what would honor him the most today is this. There's Ghostbuster organizations in every city in the country. There's a Houston Ghostbusters, there's a New York Ghostbusters, there's a Duluth Ghostbusters, none of them quite as good as the LA Ghostbusters. And this goes beyond a group that likes to dress up as Ghostbusters. They all have one thing in common. They all do charity work. It's not an accident that the Ghostbusters use, the real Ghostbusters in the movie, they use a retired ambulance. And they dress up in these work suits. Every Ghostbusters group in the country, they do work and primarily with children's hospitals. And what you've done here today is extraordinary. What the Starlight organization does is extraordinary. And frankly, I'm more honored just to be here with you guys today. Thank you, council members, and thank you for having us, and happy Ghostbusters Day to everybody.
Thank you, Jason.
So let me ask the two of you, hearing Jason Reitman talk about the value of Ghostbusters and how there's so many of them in different cities, how does it feel to know that you are apparently the best?
I mean, we did not pay him to say that. But no, that was, it was a shock to hear him say that. And I'm speaking personally, I was very humbled by it. I was like, oh, shucks, Jason, thanks. But I mean, if you look at, the Ghostbusters franchises that are out there, I mean, we all do this. Like everybody, like, you know, Buffalo does their stuff. Like they're a 501c3. They do some amazing work. The New York Ghostbusters do stuff as well. Arizona does a ton of stuff. I mean, all the Ghostbusters franchises, as Jason points out, they do charity work. And so, you know, I take that more of like his comment about us. I take that more as just, you know, him being kind of cheeky because we happen to be in the room.
I know. I'm just giving you, I'm just setting you up for inevitable battle. And realistically, I'm also just setting you up because I want to see if you're going to utilize this like a Ghostbusters franchise certificate. Like if you're going to put on a banner like the best, according to Jason Reitman, the number one. No, I'm kidding.
We'll put it on our DVD box art.
But more broadly to what you're saying, right? Like, I think you're right. Like he's really talking about the value of everybody together. You know?
Of course. I mean, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing if it weren't for other groups that were doing this, because we all came from other groups and we were all inspired by the work that these other groups were doing and by the work that the Star Wars groups were doing. And we're like, I mean, the whole gown, the Starlight gown initiative, that came out of us seeing the Star Wars gowns that they were doing with Disney. And we're just like, you know, wouldn't it be cool if there were Ghostbuster gowns, and how would we go about doing that? And then we did it. So it's like charity work is just built into the Ghostbusters franchise fandom. And I think it's just exemplified by Jason's speech that day.
So, you know, one thing we didn't talk about, Miguel, is that you actually gave a speech at this event. You had an opportunity to speak on behalf of the LA Ghostbusters and kind of express things. And I thought it would be kind of cool if we had, took a moment to drop that in here into the podcast.
Now I'd like to introduce the partner of the Starlight Children's Foundation, representing Los Angeles Ghostbusters, Miguel Medina. Miguel?
Okay. Good morning, President Krikorian, esteemed Los Angeles Council members, our friends at Sony Ghost Corps, and my fellow Ghostbuster fans. My name is Miguel Medina. I am the event coordinator and a co-founder of the Los Angeles Ghostbusters. This is a remarkable occasion and a great honor to be here with all of you. Normally, you would not see Ghostbusters at City Hall unless the city was facing a disaster of biblical proportions. I can, well, gladly, that is not the case this morning. And if it was, you'd be safe because we're here to take care of it. I was born in 1984, so I'm also turning 40 this year. And this anniversary shares a personal significance to me. I grew up as a child of the 80s and the 90s, and along with other beloved franchises, Ghostbusters was my personal favorite. Anytime I went out with my parents, I would use whatever excuse to convince them to take me to Toys R Us, where I just wanted to look around the store. Of course, my real intentions were to see what kind of real Ghostbusters toy I could beg them to buy me. Most of the time it worked. For Halloween, I dressed up as a Ghostbuster when I was in kindergarten. I have fond memories of seeing Ghostbusters 2 in theaters in 1989 and pretending there was pink slime on the floor as we exited the theater. 10 years ago, I decided to dress up as a Ghostbuster for Halloween again and wear my flight suit to a local comic book convention in downtown Los Angeles. The response from people was very positive. I met with other Ghostbuster fans who also cosplayed as Ghostbusters and quickly realized a lot of good can come from this. Anyone can be a Ghostbuster, but if you want to make a real difference, you need to have heart and compassion. I have been very fortunate and privileged to have met some important figures in Ghostbusters history. While I cherish those memories, I have also had the opportunity to participate in some amazing projects that delivered happiness and benefited many individuals, especially the children that Starlight Children's Foundation serves. I'm very proud to be a part of this fandom, but above all else, a proud member of this group. All of our members have been phenomenal and outstanding. And there are many of us out there across the country and the world who work hard in their communities to serve and raise awareness for charity. And I can only hope we inspire others to follow our lead and do amazing things. Because we have the tools, we have the talent, no job is too big, no worthy cause is too big, because we're the best, we're the beautiful, and we're the only Ghostbusters.
All right.
Thank you.
So I want to ask you one, as a person who teaches public speaking, do you want a grade? No, I'm kidding. I'm not grading your speech at all. No, I refuse to grade your speech. That's not a thing I'm doing. I only give grades to speeches that I'm paid to give grades to, and often those grades are negative, so you don't really want that. But I thought you did a great job. So here's your grade. But for you, like going into this, what did it mean to you to have the opportunity to kind of give a speech within the City Hall chambers in Los Angeles?
Like I kept telling people, like, because there was an opportunity to have one of us speak, and it was between like me and Matt. We had different admins, but Matt, he said like, "Hey, well, I'm actually not originally from LA, but blah blah blah." And we just kind of decided like, okay, it could be either of us. And I said, I don't usually talk like publicly, and especially not in such a massive, like serious forum like the city council. And I said, no, but you know what? I have a lot of like emotional, not like I have emotional connection, obviously, to Ghostbusters, but I just wanted to share like my fondness for the franchise and what it meant to me, like growing up and being a big fan of Ghostbusters, and how it's played like a big role in my life now that I'm an adult. And I wanted to go up there and say something really, that was heartfelt. Now, in terms of you being a public speaking professor, I will tell you that I did write it like overnight, only because I'm the type that's like, I don't want to think about it like too much, because then I overthink. And if I give myself too much time, so it's like, okay, let me sit down. I know what I want to like points that I want to talk about, and then like just kind of put it out there, and then revise it and everything. So that morning I was actually revising it and cutting it up. I had like 2 papers that I had printed from my email because I sent it to my girlfriend, and she helped me revise it. And she's like, okay, take this out, take that part out. And I'm like, you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And I looked at it and I said, yeah, because I don't know how much time I had. I had maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, and I didn't know if I would take too long or whatever, but I just wanted to be concise and to the point. But obviously going in there, it was a little intimidating. It could be overwhelming for most people, but I just said, well, I'm going to go up there. At least I'm not the first one to go and talk. But I went up and I said, okay, well, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it once, and I'll do my best. It was kind of formal, but I said, I got to put some humor in this. It's got to have a little bit of like, it's not all serious, because it's, obviously Ghostbusters is a comedy, and I deal with stress through comedy.
Which, by the way, you got you can hear it in the video, or in the audio of the speech. But at Miguel's, that first line that he opened with got a genuine guttural laugh out of Jason, who was standing right next to him. He laughed real hard.
He did.
I was like, that was great.
Yeah. I did choke up a little bit towards the end, saying that I was very proud to be a part of this group, and very proud of everybody in the group. I think, everybody's great. I think they're amazing and exceptional what we've done collectively. And I said, I would only hope that what we've done sets an example for other people out there to do great things too, because I do believe that anybody can be a Ghostbuster, but you have to have you got to have heart, and you have to be willing to make some sacrifices, commitments for a greater cause. And and after that, I kind of was a little emotional about that. But I said, okay, how am I going to end this? Because you have to end it like a speech of this like scope with something that's like gonna kick ass. So rather than saying like using profanity in a city building, I kind of combined stuff, and I said like, okay, so I'm going to use like different lines from the movie, and I said, all these great things are possible because we have the tools, we have the talent, there's no job is too big, basically no worthy cause is too big, and I would have said no worthy cause is too small or too big to handle. And I ended up with saying, because we're the best, we're the beautiful, and we're the only Ghostbusters. And that's how I ended it. And immediately after that, Jason Reitman looked at me and he's like, that was great, man. And I told him I had to say it. Like I told him, I had to say all that stuff. So he gave me a handshake, gave me a hug, and he was, I think he was really, he got a lot of joy out of hearing that.
Yeah.
And, one thing that I kind of connected with him, I would say is, he said it at City Hall, and I'm sure he said it, many other places, and it's very true. He said, he only wishes his dad was there to witness this and to be part of the celebration. And he told me that afterward, after the, everybody spoke, we went into the back. There's a place called the media room, and that's where they do their, what do you call it? News conferences, take pictures for press. And, again, Jason, thanked me and everything. And I told him, and he said, yeah, I wish my dad was here. And I told him, I said, I wish my dad was here too. And I gave him a hug because I told him, I was like, yeah, I've lost my dad. I lost him, almost, 7 years ago. So, whenever I see that happen, especially in the Ghostbuster community, that resonates with me. I connect to that. So obviously, like with Afterlife, I mean, that was about family, and that was, somebody losing their dad. And it's like, yeah, that's like heartfelt for me. So, all of that is like Ghostbusters is family. That's really where it kind of solidified, that whole like representation of, Ghostbusters as a family. But that's probably like one of the really like cherished things that came out of that experience for me personally, is kind of sharing that with him and saying like, yeah, well, we miss your dad too. So we know how that feels. I know how it feels. So, yeah, it was a great honor and pleasure to have done that and been able to speak, on behalf of the group and myself.
I think it's great that you had the opportunity to kind of provide that insight to folks who are not necessarily day-to-day Ghostbusters fans who are inside City Hall, to kind of give them the context of it while also doing it in a way that really celebrates the fandom and celebrates the franchise in a way where even, Jason Reitman can stand in there, laugh at it and enjoy it and really take in just how much, passion you've got for it. And we all have for it. And that's why, he made you guys the best Ghostbusters.
I mean, I almost said, he used to think we were full of crap, but
oh man,
but I didn't go there. No,
what's great is that, after when we were outside, surrounded by fans, we had a couple of executives from Sony there. Jason was, fortunately, he was able to stick around for a couple of photos, but then, he's so busy, he had to go. But pretty much every Sony exec came up to us but everyone that came up to me said, oh my God, Miguel's speech moved the whole room. Like there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And, it really touched them. And that's, these executives are they're business guys. It's their job to, stay the course, stone face. And I think it really is telling that, these folks, they didn't have to come out. And the fact that they did, I think says a lot about, this community, what this franchise means to this town and us and the charity aspect of it. But to see them genuinely moved to tears in their seats was just incredible. And I think that, Jim, you say that we need to give ourselves the credit where it's due. Miguel, I mean, for real, man, like credit where it is absolutely due. That was such a beautiful speech. I had a hard time, like where we were positioned, Jeremy and I are like on camera the whole time we were in there. And I'm just like biting the inside of my lip. I'm like, don't cry on camera. And the second you started choking up and you got emotional during your speech, I was like, son of a gun. God, I'm not going to cry. And it was so hard.
There's no crying and ghost busting.
It was genuinely.
Hey, that's a different Sony property. Be careful.
Genuinely.
All right. We're treading lightly.
But yeah, genuinely very, very moving. And it was a real privilege to be in that room with you.
I think it's amazing that you all got this done, because getting anything done politically in Los Angeles seems like a giant hurdle. Like, even if it's just getting, like, I don't know, parking permits done or something simple. I don't know.
Well, we had to get those too.
Right. You also had to figure out how to get an Ecto 1 on a street, and can you get it closed or not, etc.
That was epic.
Yeah, I have a story about that. Where we were located on the South Lawn, we had initially spoken about having vehicles out there. We were going to have 3 vehicles, the Ecto 1, and then at the time we were talking about getting the Frozen Empire Ecto, and then either Indy's Ecto Foxtrot and then my Ford Explorer, the Ecto Explorer. And we went out there and we were checking it out and like, oh yeah, this looks plenty of space. I think we can make that work. And they said, by the way, this whole park is actually built on the parking structure underground, and it has a weight threshold of about 2,000 pounds. And we were like, what? Because that is less than a Volkswagen Beetle.
Right.
And we were like, okay, would you mean 2,000 pounds like centrally located, or do you mean like 2,000 pounds per square foot? Like, what do you mean by that? And basically,
we are talking about something built in the city of Los Angeles where there are earthquakes.
Well, so what it was it actually can hold a lot more, but its safety rating is basically rated for pedestrian foot traffic. It wasn't built to have vehicles up there, which when you see it makes total sense. So, it just seemed kind of odd that we were more confused of like, why was it suggested if the weight threshold was going to be so low? And honestly, I think they just thought, well, it would be really cool if the car was out there, and it totally was. But we basically had to say, okay, well, for safety reasons, let's only put one car there. Right. And, we went back and forth with them, and they said, no, one car should be fine. Like, it's not going to collapse. Like, don't worry about it. And once we got clarification, everything was a lot smoother. But there was a couple days in there where I was like, are we going to destroy the city hall?
It's going to cave in.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that once you were told that you could only have one car out there, that you went and found the biggest and heaviest car you could possibly put out there.
So we found out how much Ecto 1 weighs, and apparently she weighs 7,000 pounds.
Yes. Yep.
Like, this is the original car, right? Because
this is the original 84 car.
Yes. The 84,
I gotta be honest with you. I've talked to some people who were like, oh, I thought there was going to have like the Frozen Empire Ecto there, whatever. And I'm like, I think it's cool that the OG car was at the event celebrating the 40th anniversary of the franchise in LA. Cause I'm like, that's the car that was like involved in establishing all this stuff, and I admitted, like, does it have battle scars? Is it well worn? Yes. But that's like the car. Like all other cars that come after it are cars pretending to be that car. Like that's
true.
You know, that's the truth. Even if they look nicer, it's like trying to say that copies of the Batmobile are the Batmobile. They're nice. They're cool. But they're not as good as the original car, except Ecto 1NJ. If you get a chance to ride in it, you totally should, because Ecto 1NJ is amazing. Yeah. I digress.
Shout out to Ecto 1NJ.
Shout out.
Yes.
Yep. Ectotech.
Yeah. So the car was kind of the thing I was stressing about that morning. We had confirmation the car was coming, but the timing of it, it wasn't quite as clear that was it going to arrive at that time, or, was it going to be a little later? We initially talked about it showing up at 9:30, but I thought better of that and said, hey, can we actually get it at 8:30? And then I was like, I should have asked for 8 o'clock. What was I thinking? So I was stressed the whole time. And Miguel, like you and I had so many conversations.
Should have asked them to show up at my house with it at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And so driving in that morning, I left my house at like 7, and I was going to get there like 30 minutes to an hour early. And I'm pulling up at 7:30, just like, oh my gosh, what time is the car going to be here? I guess if it's late, we can do all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I pull around the corner, and there it is coming off the flatbed at 7:30 in the morning. And I was like, yes, it's going to be a good day.
Oh, and she started up on her own too.
Yeah, she did. I was a little surprised. I was like, oh my God, she starts up on her own and she drives like a dream. Like watching the driver pull her around because basically the best way to get her up on the sidewalk was via the crosswalk ramp. And so he had to drive around the block to make the approach. And when he did, I was like, oh my God, there it is. It's driving. and then it comes up the ramp, just like butter. And he maneuvers it down the walkway, pulls into place. And I was just like, I cannot believe I am guiding the car into place. What a cool.
I have a level of jealousy about that because the only, screen used Ecto that I've ever seen start up and run is one of those cars that was from Afterlife when it was still looking like one of those cars from Afterlife. And it was that car that was outside the friends and family screening we all went to.
Yeah.
And, that car, when they started it up, was rough, man. It was rough. There were people pushing it into position. And I think it was the same car they had off at the donut shop that week.
Yeah, it was.
Right?
Oh,
and, kind of the same thing. Folks were like, yeah, that car looks great, but man, that car runs rough.
Was that the same one with the dented fender?
I think so.
Yeah, supposedly that one was never meant to drive. Like that one was always meant to be the stunt vehicle that you put it in position to look pretty and that's all you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Its run is limited. But yes, the original 84 car, seeing it run and run beautifully was just I've seen that car dozens of times and I feel very privileged that I can say that. But to see it run is something I never thought I would get a chance to see in my life, and to see it run well was just, I felt like I was a little kid again watching the movie, and that sounds really cliche.
Run lights.
Yeah.
Didn't run the lights.
No, they didn't have the lights then.
We were trying to figure out how to run the lights, and we didn't have lights. Honestly, people were so thrilled to see the car.
They didn't care.
They didn't care. Yeah.
Oh, but to be real, if you have the lights on the entire time you're sitting there, they're infuriating. They are supposed to be on and they're supposed to be off.
Well, it was amazing that the car was in good enough condition to actually be driven in traffic on a street. Like after the event, we were, after we took a bunch of pictures, they drove it out back onto First Street. And we have pictures and, other members in the group. Pretty much everybody had pictures, but I have one shot where it's driving past the LAPD headquarters building on First Street to make a left turn back onto Main Street to position itself with the tow truck, with the flatbed. And it was just like I'm sure everybody on this, heading to work or just doing business in downtown was like, what is going on? Like, it's that car. it's that Ghostbuster car. Like, what? Are they doing a movie? You're like, yes, sir. We're doing a movie. Yes. We're doing the next one. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, to be fair, the last time that an Ecto 1 was probably downtown was probably when they shot the stuff at the very last stuff they'll probably ever shoot at Engine 23. Right? Like that's when they went in and did that tag
point.
for Afterlife.
Yeah.
Right? That was probably the last time that anybody brought an Ecto 1 on a flatbed down to downtown. And it's certainly the last time anybody shot anything like down there along those lines.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, like that, I think that's kind of cool. Like in a weird way, like I know it was not reasonably, a thing to do or feasible, but like there's part of me that hopes that we can get a 50th anniversary in 10 years and that maybe that firehouse might actually be done.
Something
Like, like it'll be something. Like, even if it's just like, if it's developed into a restaurant, we could all just go there. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, I there's a weird part to me that's like, I love that you all got this opportunity to kind of tell a little bit of the Los Angeles story. And I want to talk more about Starlight and sort of the charitable stuff in a minute. But like, everybody does think about this as New York, like as a New York story, like and that Ghostbusters is a New York story. And driving around in that car in New York City, it's very clear like that the movie is beloved within New York City limits. Like that's just kind of how it is. But there is an inevitable part about this that is so much about Los Angeles. Like so much of the story of Ghostbusters to me is also the story of Columbia Pictures in the 80s, and so if you don't think about the movie industry and sort of who was working in it and sort of what was going on around the vibe of like 80s comedy in Los Angeles, you would never have this movie, and so I think it's so cool that you had an opportunity to celebrate the film in Los Angeles. But there is a piece of me that like, in a weird way, is like, I wish you guys had driven the car down the street in Skid Row and gone by the firehouse. Like, I don't really think that was reasonable.
Yeah.
But like, part of me wants to be like, get in the car, take it around the corner, drive it 6 blocks, and go by the firehouse one last time with this car. Like.
Yeah. I think some of our early conversations with David, he was actually asking us like, hey, what about having the celebration at like a shooting location in LA? And
right.
Yeah, that was kind of like something we were putting out there. I think we talked about like the Central Library. The firehouse. I don't know if that was in the conversation, but I think it was brought up.
I think at one point
it
was brought up. Yeah. But I think it was like, well,
I think it would be funny if you were like, how about the middle of 6th Street? Like, we're going to go right to the spot where they're out there, talking to the Con Ed guys and the cops and stuff about, and Ziggy is talking about, not drilling.
Yo.
Yeah. I think Miguel, at one point, I think you mentioned just like the finale of Ghostbusters 2. Like, the vision, and even Eric mentioned it, of all of Ghostbusters 2 and them being like honored on the steps of the Statue of Liberty. It was like that's at City Hall.
Yeah, that's kind of like what that's what inspired me. I said I would love to see that happen. I would see like, getting the recognition, and it's not even like just to like pat ourselves on the back, because it wasn't going to be about us, but it was about the Ghostbusters as a whole. But, I believe at some point you should take credit when it's given, or, when it's earned. And obviously we don't have, I mean, people will disagree, but we don't have like inflated egos. We're proud of what we do because we do great things, and it's brought a lot of happiness to the kids that we've that have received the hospital gowns, and people that see us at events, especially the kids and the adults. They get a kick out of it. They're like, "What? Oh my god! Like I remember when I was a kid and all this, the nostalgia." And we ham it up. We're just funny, and but I felt like, you know what, this group has done a lot of great stuff, and we should kind of, if we get recognition, we get some credit or whatever. But we weren't expecting anything like, oh, specifically, LA Ghostbusters, they did all this and all, It was just that we wanted to see this happen, and I, from the beginning, I said like, this is for the fans. This is for Ghostbusters as a property, but this is also for the fans, and not just from LA, but just everybody everywhere. It's just to put to have a significant event happen on a significant anniversary, the 40th anniversary. So I think the Ghostbusters property deserved it. And what a way to celebrate, a 40th anniversary is like get official recognition from, the city government. I thought that was amazing.
I agree. I think there's two things that come to mind that I want to sort of address for a second. One is that I'm happy to see you get some recognition in an official capacity, even though we joked about, kind of Jason Reitman saying you're the best franchise, etc. Because you all often don't take that acknowledgement. Like in all of the things you've done with relationship to Starlight Foundation, I am always joking and prodding you to take more credit because you often say, no, it's a group effort and it's everything we're doing nationwide. But at the same time, like we're going to talk about this new upcoming fundraising you're doing and where you're at with it so far in a minute. And like, clearly you've done a lot of work already on that. And so I think that like, it's really important that there's recognition of everybody who does work. Like, that doesn't mean that like you are better than anybody else. It just means that like, yes, you should take some recognition for what you do in the same way that Buffalo should take the recognition for what they do with respect to like the NYC event, the work that like Dan and Chris Burns and other folks at Buffalo put into that, or the folks at NYC, et cetera. Like every fan franchise that's doing work deserves the acknowledgement.
Yes.
And there shouldn't be a shame in taking it, which is why I've often prodded the two of you to be like, take some damn credit. The second thing I want to say is that I have figured out during our conversation what the one thing was that was missing from a proper Los Angeles acknowledgement of Ghostbusters. Do you know what it is?
Enlighten me.
A cake?
A cake?
No, it was not a cake. That's
nice
not
fruit
decidedly
basket.
Los Angeles.
Cake is good.
No, I mean, cake is fine, right? But like, clearly we needed a Randy Newman cover of Ghostbusters in order to make this a Los Angeles proper event.
I was pushing, like, among the other aspects, the details for the ceremony and the event. I said, we have to have music, and we need loud music. We need to have like that atmosphere, not just visually, but auditory. And that was like, okay, we need to play that song. And towards the end, I told him we got to play I Love LA. So we did a whole thing, and we were dorky, but we loved it. And I think there's footage of it.
Yeah.
Is there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it. We did a thing on social media. I think you did. We posted something, right?
Yeah.
Matt?
What was it? One of the LA like news outlets got a recording of us going, "We love LA," and I think right at the end of that. Oh no, it was the Sony Pictures social media guys recorded it, and at the very right when we say "We love LA," you just hear Randy Newman getting, "We love LA." Ain't nothing like them. No how.
No, see, I want Ghostbusters Randy Newman now though. I want the
Who you gonna call?
Randy
Ghostbusters.
Who's gonna call?
I want like as opposed to do that beginning of like We Love LA. I want like, or I Love LA. That's the name of the song really, because he says I love it, right? But like I want, as opposed to those opening bars, I want that to be like the do. Like that's where it goes.
Yeah.
Like, and Randy Newman just covers it, and that becomes your official theme song. Like you just Like that means the Ecto Foxtrot gets that added to the Siren package, and everywhere you go is the Randy Newman cover of Ghostbusters.
Dang,
maybe somebody will do that in AI or something.
Yeah, we've been recently. We really tried to like squash the use of AI in our promotional art. I've used it to like extend some photos just because they don't fit the aspect ratio. But now that Instagram like labels it as made with AI, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to make sure that I do it the old-fashioned way. But I think if we were to get an AI mashup of I Love LA and Ghostbusters, I might have to make an exception.
Yeah, I think you have to make an exception for that. If we find AI Randy Newman and get him to make some music for us, you're going to have to make an exception. I'm sorry. Like, I'm just overruling you. I'm not part of the LA Ghostbusters, but as the czar of culture that I've declared myself, I'm just going to decide that that's a thing you need.
All the humans, lay down your arms. Let the machines roll you over.
If they can make Elvis singing "I Like Big Butts," then anything is possible.
Yeah. Get the guy who does the I've ruined it compilations on TikTok.
Yeah, I'm into this.
Yeah.
And if you get actual Randy Newman to do it, then maybe he could like sign some posters. You make it a charity effort. Like, I'm just saying.
Oh,
like,
we could do a whole tour.
Yeah.
Do opening act LA Ghostbusters.
Do some limited edition pressings on slime colored translucent vinyl.
Yeah.
At some point, this all turns south when Ray Parker Jr. decides to sue everybody.
There was an interview with him. I'm gonna give him some credit because there was an interview with him. I think it was the Adam Carolla show, and he spoke about a lot of that. And he's like, he was really candid. He was like, honestly, he was like, I don't really pay attention to a lot of that stuff. It's all kind of handled by my lawyers and managers, and that's not really something that I get too involved in.
That's what got him in trouble again, right? Because there was like a few years ago. He talked about it publicly, and they're like, "Oh,
yeah,
we got to go back to court."
Oh, well.
Yeah. Well, Randy Newman, if you're listening to the podcast, answer the call.
Randy, I love him.
Let's talk for a few minutes about Starlight Foundation. You clearly had a very successful campaign the first time around with Starlight, where you came up with these Ghostbusters gowns and worked with them and Sony to get those produced. And now there's kids in hospitals who are able to don flight suits while they fight whatever illness is out there to kind of keep them motivated and feel heroic. What's going on with your second round of fundraising now with Starlight and the sort of announcement that you've had with this City Hall event?
So around August or September of last year, we thought, like, man, it was so great to see these gowns get made. We'll have to do another round at some point. And the more we talked about it, the more we were like, what would that look like? And some of us were like, oh, charcoal flight suits. And I was like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. But I feel like a lot of people don't quite get that in, like, just, they get the khaki immediately. I feel like the charcoal takes a second. So
and it's dark at a children's ward.
Yeah, like a lot of the detail isn't going to be like visible. And so we're like, yeah, maybe not charcoal. And I said, it'd be kind of great if you could have like different variations of slime. Like one of them has like marshmallow fluff. One of them has green slime, like Slimer. Another has blue, like Muncher. It'd be great if you, or pink, like Mood Slime. It'd be great if you can get like the whole spectrum in there. And then we decided that, green is kind of the quintessential slime color. And, Slimer is green. And so we started the conversations with Paula at Sony to design the slime colored gown. They were in the throes of a lot. Like the marketing machine of Frozen Empire was just starting to kind of kick in. And there was a lot going on. They had a lot on their plate. And so we were like, okay, we will revisit this once you guys can come up for air.
Right.
But, we went to our friends at Starlight and we were like, in the meantime, though, let's assume that we are going to make this next wave, and starting at like, I think maybe September, the end of September, we'll fundraise the way that we normally do, but let's have the totals, if we can, go towards the next wave. And once we got the final approved designs and we got everybody at Sony and Starlight on board, it turned out that we had raised, I think like over $18,000. And
Damn.
so this next wave is already about halfway funded, because so the whole process for 1,000 gowns is $40,000. It was
Right.
It was 35 when we initially started the first wave, but thanks to inflation and what have you, it's now 40.
Well, I mean, slime costs $5,000. Clearly, that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's just. I mean, Doc, you don't
It's the
just
going
go
rate.
to any corner drugstore and buy slime. Did you rip that off? So it was like, okay, $40,000. Yeah, let's do it. And so they updated the page to now reflect 2 waves. So the goal being $80,000,
Right.
and that our totals were added to it. We're already at 61,000. I think we might be at 62,000 right now. So we're 77% of the way there. And I mean, what a way to start a fundraiser. Hey, good news. You're halfway there and you just started.
So here's a question I have for you about that then, because like the way that they're accounting for that within the website is essentially to take your existing totals from the last campaign and build on it, right?
Yes.
If you are a franchise out there listening right now who participated in the previous fundraising effort for Starlight, can you just go and pick up your existing page and resume fundraising with it, and
Yes.
it goes towards this effort?
Yes, you can. Thanks. Actually, Jim, thank you for asking. If you already
I have one of those.
I know you do. I think I mentioned it in my Instagram post, or if I didn't, I sent an email out to a bunch of the fan groups the other day. If you had a fundraising page that went into the total for the first wave of gowns, that page is still active. It is still there. You can still go to it as long as you still have your login credentials. You can get in. You can update your total now if you want to up it. If you want to, put in a new goal. If you want to create a new team, if you want to do that, you can do that. But if you already have one, it's still there. All you got to do is log in, and you can update your totals, and you are good to go.
Which is pretty cool because, like, if you really think about it, it's not sort of a new wave of fundraising as much as it's a renewal on a continued fundraising initiative.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's what was kind of neat. And we figured that if people had created QR codes, if they had links that already existed out there, hey, all that stuff still works, and it's all going to funnel into this new, this renewed continuation.
Right. Yeah. Which is very cool. Like, and so if you're out there listening and you are somebody who's like doing cons this summer, though, for real, like this is an opportunity to do some serious fundraising at your booths, etc. Create QR codes, create links to get folks to do things. Because I think about when I was doing the Extraplasm raffle to benefit Starlight, and it was the end of the year. It was like, oh, I'm doing this around like December, January. I think we actually did it like in January. It was like, let's do this at the beginning of the year when all other fundraising had ended because everybody was doing their holiday stuff. And so I think that like if you're out there this summer, there's the opportunity to utilize that FaceTime with your folks, because we joke about the fact that we have cons all year long because we live here and there's no such thing as weather unless it's like rain occasionally that we go, oh my God, then we all just stay home. But like for real, most folks are doing cons in the height of summer, right? So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, this year, Midsummer Scream falls on the same weekend as San Diego Comic-Con. And
yeah,
we had to have that conversation of like, which do we do?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not that we don't typically do San Diego Comic-Con, But like a lot of our members go to San Diego Comic-Con, not in any official capacity, just as, con goers. But this year we were like, no, we're going to stick with Midsummer Scream. That's more our avenue. But
I'm going to be honest, like you just broke my brain. I did not realize that this conflict existed because I did notice that Midsummer Scream moved up to the end of July, but I didn't realize that it had moved up to the same weekend as Comic-Con, because some of you out there listening right now are like, how the fuck do you not know when Comic-Con is? But like, I don't go to Comic-Con. I'll be honest. Like, I'm old. I'm in my middle 40s.
You don't want to go to Comic-Con.
No, I don't. You're absolutely right. I'm in my middle 40s and I don't like large groups of people. So, like I'm not really eager to be like, yeah, let's go be in the hype. It's not my thing. I admit it. There are certain cons. I like Midsummer. I do.
Yeah, Midsummer's a lot of fun.
No, Midsummer's great. It was an easy choice for me to make because I love Midsummer. San Diego Comic-Con is in San Diego. It's expensive because I stay there like the whole time. And one of my favorite surf punk bands is reuniting, and they're playing in Long Beach at a surf guitar festival, which also falls on that same weekend as Midsummer Scream. So I'm like, no, I'm going to stay in Long Beach. So I'm going to go to Midsummer and I'm going to go see that band.
Who's reuniting?
They're called the Ghastly Ones. They look like Victorian, like what do you call them? The ones, the funeral workers, the morticians. Gotcha. They look like Edwardian, like morticians. They're probably like one of the best surf punk bands out there. That's a lot of they broke up like 14 years ago, and they're performing again to get like at this festival. So I was like, no, I'm going. I got my ticket.
Is this festival happening at the Queen Mary?
Easy choice. No.
It could have been just like
it's
right
a little
across
bit
the
away
bay
from
there.
the Queen Mary. Yeah. Yeah. It is actually, yeah. It's like further away, but it's within the vicinity.
Right
so,
on.
Yeah. That was like an easy like decision for me.
Easy choice.
I digress. Yeah.
I like to remind people that the Queen Mary is a Ghostbusters location. Just not in the movies.
Yes.
The video game is cruise ship is totally stolen from the like Queen Mary. It absolutely is just almost shot for shot.
One of these days we'll have to do, because I know the Queen Mary does a lot of stuff around Halloween. I would love to do like Ghostbuster tours of the Queen Mary. I think that would be a blast.
Yeah.
It would be so much fun.
We've been trying for years.
I think now that we have the city of Los Angeles' blessing behind us, maybe we can use that to our advantage.
Well, and you're the best Ghostbusters franchise, clearly. Yeah. Like that's been designated by a Hollywood movie director and a movie studio that you're the best. So like you know how there's the real Ghostbusters? You guys get to change all your shit now to be like the best Ghostbusters. That's
no.
No, we're the real LA Ghostbusters, I guess.
The best LA Ghostbusters.
We'll go with that. the bestest.
Yeah.
The bestest in the West.
Funny enough, one of our logo iterations is the real Ghostbusters font.
It is. I remember that. I'm excited because I'm definitely going to get involved in fundraising for Starlight. I'm so jazzed about the opportunity to do that again because it was so fun. Like as much as it was like, okay, cool. I got to give away RC traps to people and like put things in the mail and, kind of like converse with people as they won things and like have a contest. Like it was so fun to do that. And then to be like, oh, cool. We all did something together. And I'm not really sure what Extraplasm is going to do yet to figure out that fundraising effort that we're going to do as like sort of Team Extraplasm, if that's a thing. I don't know who else is part of that team, but I'm going to get recruits. But come on, cadets. But like, I think that Starlight does so much cool stuff. I've said this for years that like they are the organization that I remember most as a child being like, oh my God, nonprofits do things for other kids, like help them in the hospital. And just like most recently seeing the photos that have been published of like McKenna Grace out visiting these kids in hospitals who have their Ghostbusters flight suits and who are getting the visit from a Ghostbuster as like their morale boost made me be like, how do we make more of this happen?
I can't tell you how excited I was to see those photos because I was like, oh, yes. We have been trying to do, and our friends at Starlight have been trying to like get us to do one of those drop-offs with McKenna. It's just, it really has all come down to like scheduling. Scheduling's a nightmare. She's never in town when we are. And I mean, we wanted her to be at the LA City Hall thing, and she was at a convention with Finn Wolfhard, and I think someone else from
it was in Texas.
Yeah, they were in Texas, and it's just like, oh man, it's like right when we can do stuff, they're not available. But yeah, I remember the Starlight folks were saying like, hey, by the way, McKenna agreed to do this. It's not really something that we can like pull you guys in on. We would, but unfortunately schedules are just what they are. And it's like, dang it. But one day.
But it's great that it happened. Like to me, that like there is a situation where
Well, she was a Starlight kid, so she really like it has a connection to Starlight and I'm sure that was a great honor for her too, to be able to come visit the kids and deliver the Ghostbuster gowns, so she connected with them, I would think. But we're really proud to have, helped make that happen too. And yeah,
I mean, that's what's wild to me is that without those gowns, right, this highly influential young actor who a lot of kids look up to, right? Like a lot of like tweens and teens look up to and have like looked up to characters that she's played, whether it's Ghostbusters or not, like they wouldn't have this connection, that sort of exists in the same way. And so not that it's like, oh, we all made sure McKenna shows up at hospitals. Way to go for us. Like that would be weird. But like, we were like, yeah, whoa, we're awesome. But like, it is kind of a funny thing to consider that like all of this stuff comes together because of this mutual story that we all love, including her, right? Like as somebody who's been like, and she's talked about this, that like she is a lifelong Ghostbusters fan going back to being a kid. And she takes this part that she plays in this role that she has as a responsibility to sort of be the next phase of Ghostbusters very seriously, So I think it's so cool that all this comes together. And I really want to encourage people out there who are listening, like if you are not going to do a fundraising effort of your own, you can still be a part of things that are going to go on over the next, rest of the calendar year in terms of fundraising for this. And I think this is also important to consider really quick and just talk about. Suppose you crush the fundraising goal and you raise over it. Where does the money go? What does it do?
Well, so funny you should ask because as I mentioned earlier, the initial fundraising total that was required to get the first batch of gowns made was $35,000, and we ended up raising $40,000. So that extra $5,000, it actually went towards the creation of a Nintendo Switch station that was donated to the Children's Hospital wing of Miller Children's and Women's Hospital in Long Beach, which is the same hospital that we dropped the gowns off. So if we do go over our fundraising goal, we have that option to have a gaming station made or, something else, kind of put together. And I think that, at that point, we'll have to have a discussion about like, okay, what do we want? What do we want to donate? So, yeah. Well, it also depends on how much, because I think the gaming station just happened to be, that's $5,000. And I was like, oh, perfect. Then let's do that. So depending on how much, we'll have to see. But I
mean, that to me is something where the reason I bring this up is I think that it's totally possible for somebody out there listening to be like, oh, cool, you're making more gowns. That's a thing. You already did that once. Right? Like, which, great. They also made Ghostbusters once, and they made Ghostbusters 2, and some of you out there think it's better than the first movie. You're all insane, but I still love you. But nevertheless, I think that it's important to consider that the money that goes towards an organization like Starlight is not just going to them because it's going to fund this single initiative. If the money goes to them and it's expends beyond this initiative of sort of like helping to create these gowns and create more opportunities for kids to have them and feel satisfied and energized and be feeling positive as they're trying to fight through whatever it is they're fighting through, that what you provide is just more care through play.
Yeah.
And like, to me, that is like what I've always loved about Starlight and is so important to me, is that like they are the organization that said, well, what can kids use in the hospital? Well, what if we got them some Nintendo Switches because being in the hospital sucks?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That sounds like a great idea, you know? And so I love that you're doing this again. Like, I say again, but like, it's important for us to say this. Like, it's not really again, it's still.
Yeah.
You've never really stopped supporting Starlight Foundation. And the weird part about it is like, I don't think the Ghostbusters fans have. I think there's just like a way for us to kick this back off again and to remind folks that these resources are out there to utilize, that you've already got them created in many cases. And if you're putting them to use this con season, like throughout the summer, and as you get into Halloween and you're doing things around October and you're continuing to push this alongside other things you're doing locally, that there's a real potential here to continue to spread some really awesome goodwill under the banner of proton packs and PKE meters and Spengler family stuff we all love.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. Like, going over the fundraising goal, you know, if we meet another threshold, then yes, we can get another gaming station or something. But even if we don't, even if we only go over by, you know, $1,000 or a couple $100, you know, that all is still very important. And that goes towards, you know, providing kids with some other essentials for, you know, their hospital stay, or, you know, money that goes into the organization to help them stay afloat so they can keep doing stuff like that.
Right.
So like organizations like this, like sometimes someone was like, I forget where we were. I think it was at an event and someone asked, you know, why does it cost $40,000 to make only 1,000 hospital gowns? And I said, well, there's an awful lot of people behind all this whole operation to help make it happen. And, you know, you talk to anyone who works for a nonprofit, they'll tell you that when you ask them, why do you work for a nonprofit? The first thing they say is, well, it ain't for the money. You know, they do have to get paid because it's their job,
right?
But they don't, you know, they're not getting rich working at a nonprofit. If someone's getting rich at a nonprofit, I would really question what that nonprofit does. But no one at Starlight is, you know, enriching themselves in this. They do it because they believe in the mission. And that is exactly why we do it. And you know, $20, you know, can buy a couple of toys, but it also just keeps the lights on in their offices so that they can help coordinate a toy drop off, so that they can help design another batch of hospital gowns for, you know, kids across the nation. So even if it doesn't go towards like another gown, it does go towards this organization to help make this happen. And so, every dollar will be put to good use.
I'm sure it will be, just as long as none of those hospital gowns that get created with any excess money are for Star Wars. Because that's the worst franchise ever. And I know the two of you are people who came out of the Stormtrooper community and blah, 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 blah.
You're just saying that because we're both wearing Star Wars shirts right now.
Security.
I am.
One thing I will actually on that point, Disney actually grants Starlight the money to make those gowns. So I will say that is something that we have, and I mean we as in the Ghostbusters community, that we have over the Star Wars fans. The Star Wars fans get to reap the benefits of those hospital gowns already being funded. They don't have to do the legwork. They just get to go bring them to the hospital. We have to do the legwork just to make sure they get made. So
I love the fact that Eric Reich came on this podcast recently, and I asked him what makes a good Ghostbuster story, and he said that it's about the story of the underdog.
Yes.
Right. And he also talked about wanting to, you know, sort of elevate the importance of charitable work that gets done by the franchises. And Matt, you just did it. You just made us, you're like, just listen, we all come together to make this. Those Star Wars fans, they all are privileged. They get the money given to them by the big mouse. Whereas we have to come together in our flight suits and we have to take our boots off and hold them on the side of the road next to cars and ask people to put money in the boots. And
as someone,
we haven't done that yet.
Someone who is a part of those legions as well. That is not to discount the hard work that they do, because they do put in a lot of hard work.
I know. Yeah. I'm just giving you nonsense.
Of course, I happen to be wearing
my
Rebel Legion shirt.
No, it's important to say this, right? The two of you came out of doing stuff with like things like the 501st. It's kind of like how you both came into Ghostbusters cosplay, and from there, or rather, I want to say beyond cosplay, like fundraising, like into service work, basically in flight suits. And so I think it's important to keep that in mind, that like a lot of folks who do things in one fandom do it in more than one. And that's totally healthy and awesome. Like if you go out and you have, your charity work that you do as Darth Maul, go for it. It's a lot of paint work. I appreciate you. But like if you also go out and do your charity work as Vince Clortho, that's also good. Requires less paint work, but more spaghetti colanders. So yeah, like it's great stuff. I love it.
I mean,
we should get more of it.
One of our recent member editions just got his approval as the Mandalorian in the 501st.
Nice.
So congrats,
awesome.
Andy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he looks.
He really does.
Excellent.
It's a good looking suit of armor.
The thing about you guys is that people aren't careful. You'll start mashing this all up. Like you'll show up to events in stormtrooper outfits that are khaki.
That's true.
Oh, I've worn my my Imperial TIE pilot flight suit. I did it for Halloween once. I wore the flight suit, which is basically a one-piece suit, and it has patches on the sides. And I put my proton pack and on my cap, and I went and walked around like my neighborhood with it. I mean, nobody understood what that was, but I put pictures up, and I'm like, it's the converging of franchises.
Yep.
There you go.
Like, haha.
We did see a couple of Force Ghostbusters at LA Comic-Con last year, or was that WonderCon? No, it was WonderCon.
No, yeah. WonderCon. They had the hitchhiking ghosts, and they wanted us to do like a whole like photo shoot. Yeah. It was like really elaborate. They're like, okay, they're like, and then there was somebody there that she was like, oh, she's the director. She's the one who's calling the shots here. And we're like, what are we doing? We're just like taking a picture and like, no, now you're doing a video. And she like line up like this in a V line and then do this. And we're like, okay, are we done? Or like, cause this has been like 25 minutes now. Like, did you get a good shot? Like,
oh yeah.
It was really cool, but yeah, it's mashups. Yeah. Mashups are cool.
Well, if people are going to ask for, websites by name and places to go support your effort to support Starlight, where do they go? Where can folks go to help support the fundraising initiative we're all going to be involved in for Starlight Foundation for hopefully the rest of the year?
Well, they can go to losangelesgb.com, or they can check us out at Instagram at LA Ghostbusters, or TikTok at LA Ghostbusters, and Facebook at LA Ghostbusters.
Right on. I want to encourage folks out, though, if for real, like if you've got an existing page for Starlight, fire it back up, get back to work. Let's see what we can do and pull off this year, because it would be really amazing to come out of 2024 and the 40th anniversary of Ghostbusters knowing that we've generated a whole new wave of hospital gowns and opportunities for kids to be energized about what's going on. And if we can push it beyond that, like it would be really cool to make sure that all those kids get Nintendo Switches and copies of Spirits Unleashed, because that's awesome. That's a game we love. So yeah, I don't know. Anything else, guys, that you want to let people know about before we sign off for Extraplasm this week?
Just that, keep an eye on our Instagram for any updates from the fundraiser or upcoming events. The one for sure that I know that we have is Midsummer Scream, the last weekend of July 26th through the 28th at the Long Beach Convention Center.
28th.
And then, we have a couple that have been requested that haven't been completely confirmed yet. So, yeah, Miguel, you're the events guy.
Yes, sir. Yeah. No, we stuff that will come in. As we get closer to the Halloween season, obviously it's going to take off, and we will be pretty much booked every weekend and maybe
Yeah.
every day. So many of us now, we can handle every
Yeah,
day,
we're almost at 30
events, right?
It's amazing. It's crazy
30,
how
we're at
many of
40.
you there are now. There's so
Jeez.
many LA Ghostbusters. It's wild.
Yeah.
But I will say you're all kind people who I like hanging out with, and I am eager to see you. If not before then, which I probably will, then certainly at Midsummer. Although I'm gonna say this, somebody asked me about Midsummer recently. And they said, "Are you going?" And I said, "Yeah, probably." But I think I might be retired from flight suiting at Midsummer. I think I might have decided I'm done standing in the entry line in 85-degree heat for an hour and a half to get inside.
Yeah,
So-
I can't say that I blame you.
You know, well, it's podcasting.
Well,
It's-
we're
it does
working
it,
on a
you know,
summer.
it just breaks it.
We're working on a summer uniform.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But they're
Yeah.
shorts and short sleeve. Yeah. We call it the Lieutenant Dangle.
It's got my boots.
Hey,
New boot goofing.
we all need a summer uniform. I mean, even that most recent movie we just saw takes place in summer and people are running around in freaking freezing winter coats.
Yeah.
Not that much though. Less than we all expected.
Yeah.
I digress. But I am eager to see you all at Midsummer, if not before then. And again, folks, support the initiative here to develop some gowns for Starlight Foundation and to get more of those in the hands of kids, because they make a big difference. You know, when a kid is in the hospital and they are dealing with a pretty tough situation, anything that can help to brighten their day is a good thing. And I think that the hospital gowns and the different services that Starlight provides are super, super important. So I want to say thank you to both of you for coming on the show this week again, because it's always nice to see you and talk to you. But the things that you're doing are super, super important and incredibly valuable. And I appreciate you both so much. And so thank you for coming on the show, and come back anytime you want to talk about anything you're doing. And yeah, any final words before you leave us this week?
Happy 40th to Ghostbusters. And I hope everybody out there celebrated a lot of fun. You had a great time. And yeah, I would say they're not done yet. There's more to come in the future,
right.
hopefully.
That's right.
Sooner than later. So yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. Happy 40th anniversary, Ghostbusters. And thank you to everybody first of all, thank you to everybody who made the LA and the Sony Pictures events so memorable. Thank you to our wonderful Ecto One driver who brought it to the event. Thank you to Carissa and Eric and everybody at Sony and Ghost Corps who helped us with
Yes.
that. That was absolutely
Thank you.
incredible. And thank you to them for inviting us and so many other fans to celebrate on the lot. And thank you to obviously Jason for coming out and saying such kind words, and for carrying on his
Jason.
father's
Yeah.
legacy in a way that I know his father is extremely and would be extremely proud of. And thank you, Miguel, for being such an awesome guy.
The best Ghostbuster.
And so handsome,
I
too.
try. Oh, jeez. Oh, I try. Oh no,
Hey.
you don't. I'm glad this is an audio podcast and not a video podcast, because yeah,
Too many broken hearts out there.
I'm growing out my hair. It's yeah. Well, I'm gonna put a ponytail, not a man bun, but
Yeah,
I'll
there
do a
you go.
ponytail maybe.
Listen, if you need to worry about how long your hair gets, don't worry. There's foundations you can cut that off and donate to as well.
Hey, there you
and
go.
then you can continue all the giving that you're doing. So
That's-
there you go. Like,
That would be very fun. I would actually consider that. Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll be the next thing we talk about on another episode of Extraplasm.
Yeah.
The the scare away your hair drive. Guys, I love talking with you both, and I appreciate everything you do. Thank you so much for coming on this week. Folks, don't forget, if you're listening out there, to support Starlight Foundation. There's plenty of ways to do it, whether that's by giving direct donations, by starting your own fundraiser via their donation tools, or by resharing the things that are going on from Ghostbusters franchises that are participating. And don't forget, if you're listening to Extraplasm, there's probably a pretty good chance there's going to be a way to participate via the podcast as well. Thank you again, guys, and come back anytime.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot, Jim.
You're
Appreciate
welcome. We'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.
that about wraps things up for Extraplasm this week. I want to say one final thank you to Matt and Miguel for coming on the show this week, for giving us some time to chat with them about what they were doing at the LA City Council and the work that they put into developing that event, and for representing Ghostbusters here in the city of LA and at large, and for all the important work they do with Starlight Foundation. I want to say again, if you are out there and you can support that initiative in some way, please do, and I will keep you posted on what Extraplasm is going to be doing to get involved in that as well. As usual, I need to say thank you to Brendan Pearce, aka Badoochi Studios, aka Mr. Revived Crypt Creepers. Welcome back. It's so fun to make Instagram stories with your little characters in them again, and I'm so excited. And I need to say thank you as usual to Vaporwave artist MAGNAVOX, whose version of Ghostbusters serves as our theme song each week. And finally, I want to say thank you to you. I haven't talked to you all on a microphone in a couple weeks because I needed to take some time and space, given some things that didn't work out with the last episode scheduling and given just life challenges that were going on. And I heard from quite a few of you checking in to make sure that I was okay. I really appreciate that. Things have been kind of difficult, as I think you can probably glean from the things I've talked about in the last few weeks with family things and healthcare things, and it was really nice to hear from some folks. So never feel like you should be strangers, and always feel like you're welcome to communicate. If you want to reach out, Extraplasm on Instagram, Extraplasm on X, extraplaspodcast@gmail.com, and of course you can find Extraplasm on Facebook and YouTube. Be well, be healthy, have fun, enjoy the summer and the sunshine and things that are out there, and what I'm calling convention season. And as Ernie Hudson reminds us every week,
try to have fun and always keep on busting. Take care.